Lincoln is the place to be this weekend. Multiple five-stars will be in attendance. Of course, headlined by the top player in the class. You see his name in red, Dylan Raiola. Also, Williams Nwaneri, Wingo and Bryant Wesco, all expected to be on campus. So that's where we will head and welcome in Mike Schaefer. Mike, Matt Rhule really bringing in the heavy hitters this weekend. It feels like the biggest recruiting visit in a long time, maybe even ever. So Mike, how does this weekend compare to past events?
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska's had some big spring games. They've had some big home games. They have not had a lot of big March 25ths before. And so when you're talking about having 4 or 5 stars on campus, you're talking about the number 1 recruit in the country in Dylan Raiola, and then upwards of double digits of guys in our top 247. I mean, it's just a really big weekend for Matt Rhule and an opportunity for him to really kind of put his stamp on what this Nebraska 2024 class could be right off the bat. And it really has the fan base fired up to have all this talent coming in here in March, because that spring game is just around the corner, and some of these guys might be taking the first of several visits to Lincoln.
Mike, we saw the graphic earlier. Dylan Raiola will be accompanied by some heavy hitters: Wingo, Bryant Wesco, Williams Nwaneri, many others across multiple classes. When you maybe bust out your crystal ball and project 5-6 months from now, and you look back at this weekend in particular, how important is this weekend to the success of the 24 class?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really big. I mean, I think a lot of it starts with Dylan Raiola himself. I mean, he's done a lot of peer recruiting on behalf of a program that he's not even committed to, which is, certainly an unusual thing. Obviously, we know all about the history, his dad, his uncle, all of that, but he is very invested in bringing other people out to Nebraska on the off chance that he does commit to Nebraska. He wants to have great players around him. And so this weekend's huge. It's going to have the opportunity for Raiola to certainly kind of show off what he knows about Nebraska, and for a lot of these people to get their first experience. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if quite a few guys that Nebraska has in their 2024 class are a direct result of this visit weekend.
Okay, we know the Husker faithful are all watching this segment to get more intel on Dylan Raiola. I see it in the chat right now. They want to know. But the crystal balls are kind of mixed. They're mixed between people currently on this segment right now. You got some for USC, got some for Nebraska and Georgia. You have one in for Nebraska, though. Why are you still leaning the Huskers here, Mike?
Yeah, I just think that based on all the information that I kind of have at this point in time, the multitude of visits that he's already made, the fact that he's telling people to be there this weekend when he is, there's a commitment level that he has to Nebraska that is just remarkable. We're not used to seeing that. And so I think there's just something special about this place for him and his family. And I just feel like Matt Rhule has done a great job in a short amount of time, made up a lot of ground, and has really impressed the Raiola family. And so I think all of those things, combined with the fact that there's not a lot in front of him on the depth chart. I mean, so he would have an opportunity to kind of be Matt Rhule's guy pretty early on. And so I just think all of that adds up for Nebraska to look very good. I understand it's hard to imagine Nebraska winning out over a USC or over a Georgia. But I right now, just how I feel, I think the Huskers are going to walk away with this one. And it would be the biggest recruiting win, certainly in the 12 years that I've been covering this program and its recruitment.
I will say this, Mike, if I had a beard like you do, it'd be a lot grayer having to cover this recruitment. Dylan Raiola going back and forth, every corner of the country essentially on visits. My crystal ball is on USC. We heard Steve earlier mention that he likes where Georgia is sitting. This is going to be going on and on and on, I think, until he takes those official visits. And that will be a key for him when he makes that decision. But I got to play devil's advocate here, Mike. If he doesn't sign with Nebraska, how will that fan base view this class?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big blow. But if you think about it, no one's more prepared for Nebraska to not get Dylan Raiola than Nebraska fans. Having gone through it last year where it felt like with Scott Frost, they were in the best position to get Dylan Raiola, and he ended up committing to Ohio State. And so I think Nebraska fans would be able to handle that should it come to it. It certainly would put a damper, I think, into the upside of this recruiting class, and you're probably talking more like a a top 25 class and less of maybe a top 10 or a top 15 class, just because of what he could help bring in. But I think that fans would be able to survive it. I mean, they're doing a great job with a lot of guys in the area. There's several visitors that are going to be in this weekend that maybe aren't top 247 guys, but are from the states of Iowa and Colorado, Missouri, where Nebraska is going to give themselves a chance to maybe do even better than they did under Scott Frost and Mike Riley with recruiting locally in the 500-mile radius.
I'm curious your take on this. This was something that was kind of thrown out to us on a previous show. You mentioned how important it is for Nebraska to build in guys behind Dylan Raiola, but how important is maybe landing another blue chip prospect before you get Dylan Raiola to help kind of entice him to join this class?
It's like a real chicken and egg thing, right? Like how do you get one without the other? And I have a tough time imagining that they're going to walk away with a Brandon Baker who's supposedly coming out this weekend, or Ryan Wingo without getting Dylan Raiola. And so I think he sort of has to be the first for this to go. And I think Nebraska is very conscious of that. And I think that's part of some of the recruiting strategy and the recruiting efforts of a Matt Rhule and a Marcus Satterfield is you really kind of you gas up a Dylan Raiola and you let him know that not only is he a big part of the future, but he can really shape what the future of a recruiting class could look like. That's a lot of responsibility to kind of throw on any recruit. But I think they feel pretty comfortable about that with Raiola. And certainly he has gone out and really kind of made himself a part of this thing, which again, all kind of leads back to, I don't know that he'd be doing that at Georgia and at USC, or that he has to. But at Nebraska, he's willing to take on that role. And I just think that just speaks to the special relationship that he has with this place.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Mike. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm sure we aren't done talking about Dylan Raiola by so happy to come on.
Absolutely. We're not done talking about it, and you're probably not done writing about it. So you need to go read his work on Husker247.com. You can see all things Nebraska. That is the place to do it.